A very good evening to you. And welcome along once again, one and all, to Sweet and Swing here on Max Radio. My name's Howard Kane, and it's always a pleasure to have your company. And what have we got? How about a bit of Lionel Hampton? Haven't heard from him in a while. More from our friends at Ensa. Bit of Billie Holiday, wonderful. It is bonfire night, almost, so how about some memories of the Skyrockets? See what I did there? And staying in that sort of bonfire-y, fireworky mood, after a fashion at least. How about this one? Count every star.
Every star in the midnight sky, count every rose, every firefly, for that's how many times I miss you. Heaven knows I miss you. Count every leaf on a willow tree, count every wave on a stormy sea. Count every star, and darling, when you do, you'll know the times I have cried for you.
Count every star, of course. Ray Anthony. It might be stars in the sky, or it might be stars from the rocket, which is just blown up with a shattering sparkle of sparks and light and stars and such like, isn't there? I can't beat it. I know they seem to be becoming less and less popular, and there's the worry about the environment and pollution and scaring animals and the rest of it, but you know what? I think if you're of a certain age and you grew up with bonfire parties, or going to bonfires, if you were lucky enough with me to be able to build your own and have bonfires and fireworks, then You do have great thoughts about them, it has to be said. Ray Anthony, of course, famously got his big break with Glenn Miller. So I think we've reflected on this before, just before 1940s, late 30s. And Glenn Miller had just burst into prominence with a great performance at the Glen Island Casino in New York. He'd introduced the unique sound of his band to a great success. He tried Ray Anthony out on lead trumpet and was so impressed he offered him a job. But Ray told Glenn Miller that, if he could get out of his current contract with Al Donahue, he'd return to New York City and join Glenn Miller, but apparently Glenn didn't think it was going to happen, and so he filled the spot with trumpeter Billy May. However, Donahue did give Ray leave, and when Ray returned to New York, he'd found the position had already been filled. He assumed, well, that was it somewhat, but Miller, clearly very impressed by the young Ray Anthony, made the move of, slightly surprisingly, clearing out a trumpet position. I don't know who had to sacrifice their seat with the Glenn Miller band. Don't suppose they were best pleased, but either way, he cleared out a trumpet position to make room for him. And then Ray went on to become part of one of the most famous swing bands, of course, in musical history. How are we all surviving so far? Are we into the winter? I think we are. Technically, are we now in November? I'm always thinking the meteorological winter doesn't start until something like December, but in my eyes, surely winter... Oh, no, end of November. Let me see now. So if June, July, August is the summer, September, October, and November is the autumn, isn't it? We're still in autumn. Fair dinkum. And we don't get into winter until December, January, and February. That makes sense, doesn't it? Oh, well. Anyway, it's been a wetty so far, as is usually the case. Lots of wet, lots of wind. Not so much cold weather. I wouldn't mind less wet and wind and just a bit more sort of coolish weather. I don't mean snow everywhere. I just mean I don't mind a bit of cold, do you? So what do you expect in winter? It's a chance to try out your new hat and gloves you got last Christmas. Probably haven't worn yet. Or very briefly, if you have. Anyway, I shouldn't tempt fate, should I? In any case, we get off scot-free compared to a lot of places. Lovely to have you along as ever. Like I said, plenty coming up this evening. Also got some more classic motoring music, and we'll try and squeeze in a bit of the songs of Jimmy Van Heusen if we can. In the meantime, we're heading back to 1934 to join Lou Stone with Joe Ferry in the chorus. Tina. Tina with Lou Stone and the boys. And by boys, I mean the chorus, vocal chorus, with Joe Ferry taking the lead and giving us the words of Tina. Not one of the major stars, I suppose, in his day, but he did play the trombone as well. Trombone-playing vocalist he was, and featured with several bands. I heard him with Lou Stone there, but he also featured over the years with Billy Cotton, with Ray Fox, Geraldo, and Jack Jackson. So maybe he's not up there with Al Bowley and the likes, Chick Henderson and all the rest of it, but you know what? He's done all right out of that, hasn't he? Not too bad at all. In the meantime, plenty of wind about at the moment. Cast your fate to the wind, says Vince Guaraldi. Lovely touch he had. Great moustache too, if you ever saw a picture of him. Vince Guaraldi and his trio. Best known perhaps to many, and perhaps, I don't know, rightly so, first time I came across him was if you ever watched the Peanuts cartoons, you'll have probably seen them at some stage. Charles M. Schultz's iconic Snoopy and Peanuts and Charlie Brown, all the rest of it. Woodstock, etc., etc. You know the one. You'll have read the cartoons, you'll have seen the book. And they did a wonderful animated series of it as well back in the day. I haven't seen them for a long time. They used to be knocking around them. It was perfectly done. They didn't try to overdo it. It was slightly underplayed. The voices were bang on, I thought, in many ways. And the soundtrack was none other than Vince Guaraldi and his trio, doing tracks like Linus and Lucy and such like. Wonderful. Well worth checking out if you ever get a chance to see them. I'm sure they must be online somewhere along the way. And Charlie Brown's Christmas, a great Vince Guaraldi album which usually hits the decks, certainly in my house, and I'm sure plenty of others as well, if you know that one. And if you don't, go and dig it out somewhere. Really worth having a listen. Sweet and Swing, H with you through until the top of the hour. Yes, well, it is bonfire night-ish, isn't it? That time of the year. I mean, bonfires never seem to actually happen on the night these days. They all seem to be sort of either side of it, depending on the weather. Anyway, I thought we'd have a sort of mini celebration with a couple of tracks during the night from the Skyrockets. Golden memories of the Skyrockets, that wonderful band, and, well, better of their theme, I suppose, anyway. Stairway to the Stars.
Let's build a stairway to the stars and climb that stairway to the stars with love beside us, just like a beautiful song. We'll hear the sound of violins out yonder where the blue begins. The moon will guide us as we go drifting along. Can't we sail away on a lazy daisy petal over the rim of the hill? Can't we sail away on a little dream and settle high on the crest of a thrill? Let's build a stairway to the stars, a lovely stairway to the stars. It would be heaven to climb to heaven with you.
We lived our little drama. We kissed in a field of white, and stars fell on Alabama last night. I can't forget the glamour. Your eyes held a tender light, and stars fell on Alabama last night. I never planned in my imagination a situation so heavenly, a fairyland where no one else could enter, and in the center, just you and me, dear. My heart beat like a hammer, my arms wound around you tight, and stars fell on Alabama last night. we lived our little drama. We kissed in a field of white, and stars fell on Alabama last night. I can't forget the glamour. Your eyes held a tender light, and stars fell on Alabama last night. I never planned in my imagination a situation so heavenly, a fairy land where no one else could enter, and in the center, just you and me, dear. My heart beat like a hammer, my arms wound around you tight, and stars fell on Alabama last night.
Can't go wrong with a bit of Billy, can you? Absolutely wonderful sound. Always liked her voice, and it sounds like that was a slightly older Billy, if we can put it that way. And that, yeah, some of the very last albums she made, you can almost hear the tragedy in her voice, even if you weren't aware of it, I think. But still sounding pretty good there, I think. Billie Holiday from the album Songs for Distinguished Lovers. Great company she's with there. Ben Webster on tenor, Harry Edison on trumpet, Jimmy Rowles piano, Barney Kessel at the guitar, Red Mitchell bass, and I think that was Larry Bunker, was it? Or was it Alvin Stoller? Let's see if we can work out the thing there. It was Alvin Stoller at the drums. And before that, the first of a couple of tracks, I think, this evening, bearing in mind it's almost bonfire night, from, appropriately of course, the Skyrockets. Or, if you can remember their real name, do you remember their real name? Everyone called them the Skyrockets, didn't they? I always think of the Skyrockets. Their proper name, not surprisingly, forgotten compared to the Skyrockets name, was the #1 Ballroom Dance Centre Orchestra, which doesn't trip off the tongue really that readily, does it? And it was basically, again, one of these bands, a bit like the Squads and such like, that came about with the war. Middle of the swing era, Second World War raises its ugly head, lots of fantastic musicians drafted in to uniform, of course, and the government realised, though, well, yes, they might be in the forces, but they could carry on playing in order to keep spirits up, which was so important for so long, I think, and they did a wonderful job at doing that. And so some of these dance bands were formed with amazing musicians who had been enlisted and originated in 1940, so early, within the first year or so of the war breaking out, at Blackpool. A number of musicians had been training there to become balloon rigger fabric workers, hence the name, if you were pondering. Prior to transferring to the band, which was down in southeast London, training after they finished the training, and they formed the band to pay off duty, but they required such a reputation that the Air Ministry booked the band for 2 years of propaganda broadcasts to the Luftwaffe. Quite right too. By 1942, the Skyrockets were regular broadcasters, and they played their first public concert in Bristol. And for much of its life, the band was led, of course, by Paul Feneley, the trombonist and arranger, who pre-war had worked with the likes of Carol Gibbons and would become very familiar to light programme listeners after the war as well. And he had recording contracts, of course, for Rex and Parlophone, frequent broadcasts and public concerts, and the Skyrockets themselves became a household name back in the day. And on the strength of their popularity, they decided to remain a band after the war had finished. Quite right too. Super sound. They made all sorts of wonderful musicians. We'll have another track from them before the night is out. For now, let's hit the road, as they say, and have another one of our On the Right Road classic motoring music. Some weird and wonderful stuff in this collection, I tell you. How about this one then? Out and About, Charles Williams and the Melody Light Orchestra. I love the fact that it almost sounds like I did play that from the original vinyl, doesn't it? Or even shellac, I don't know. You can almost hear the needle coming in and coming out again. Lots of scratches. Bit of a scratch right at the beginning there almost, I think, as well. But no, that's on the transcription to the CD, On the Right Road, classic motoring music. And something which happily fits into this programme, I think, under the sweet section, and would also very happily fit into Morris's programme, Morris Powell's A Little Light Music. Of course, every week, 9 o'clock here on Mike's Radio on a Thursday evening. I could see him enjoying that one very much. British light music at its best. And one of the most prolific and best of the light music composers of the period was Charles Williams, whose ear for a melody, it's reckoned, was second to none. Some of his best-known theme tunes, Dick Barton, Jennings at School, Evergreen Melodies, Radio, TV, Memories, all sorts. Let's Go Shopping, Trolleybus, follow that. That one's called Out and About. And yeah, all right, it is light without a doubt. You couldn't call it anything else, could you? On the other hand, it's very catchy and good fun. Fits nicely into the sweet section of Sweet and Swing in the On the Right Road. I think it would be On the Right Road with that one, I think, wouldn't you? Without a doubt. I mentioned you could have some Lionel Hampton at the beginning, which seems like a good call. We haven't had Hamp on for quite some time. Let's hear him slightly slower. I know sometimes he can be going frenetically quickly, and plenty of evidence of that on this collection from our friends at Avid. But this one's a slightly slower one, and again, rather appropriate for the time of year. Moonglow.
that hurts and mocks. I'm standing alone by the desolate docks, in the still and the chill of the night. I see the horizon, the great unknown. My heart has an ache, it's as heavy as stone. Will the dawn coming on make it light? I cover the waterfront, I'm watching the sea. Will the one I love be coming back to me? I cover the waterfront in search of my love, and I'm covered by a starless sky above. Here am I, patiently waiting, hoping and longing. Oh, how I yearn. Where are you? Are you forgetting? Do you remember? Will you return? I cover the waterfront, I'm watching the sea. For the one I love must soon come back to me. For the one I love must soon come back to me.
Oh, yes. Well done indeed. Our friends at Ensa in that particular case, it was, of course, Geraldo and the orchestra, with Dorothy Carlos taking the vocals for. Is it Ted Heath song, that one? I Cover the Waterfront. Lovely number, must admit. Beautifully done. Rapturously received, as you could gather. And before that, Lionel Hampton, almost bursting into a burst of speed, but no, just a quick interlude. And a lovely version of Moon Glow. Playing music from some of the selections they played in the Benny Goodman movie. If you've ever seen that, I don't know that I have, to be honest with you. Sort of rings a bell, but I can't actually. Maybe I might have seen bits of it back in the day. Don't know, when the old maestro would probably be watching it, I imagine. Sounds like a Sunday afternoon film, doesn't it? But a cracking lineup. Lionel Hampton with Gene Krupa and Teddy Wilson. Yeah, that's not a bad lineup, is it? Not bad at all. Wonderful stuff. Again, another collection from Avid, I think. I had that one knocking round on the shelves for quite some time. 'Tis Sweet and Swing, lovely to be with you as always. Moonlight becomes you, as they say. The songs of Jimmy Van Heusen. And here's a good one with R. Frank, no less.
If I don't see her each day, I miss her. Gee, what a thrill each time I kiss her. Believe me, I've got a case on Nancy with a laughing face. She takes the winter and makes it summer, but summer could take some lessons from her. Picture a tomboy in lace, that's Nancy with a laughing face.
Did you ever hear mission bells ringing? Well, she'll give you the very same glow. When she speaks, you would think it was singing. Just hear her say, hello. I swear to goodness, you can't resist her. Sorry for you, she has no sister. No angel could replace Nancy with a laughing face. Keep Betty Grable, Lamour, and Turner. She makes my heart a charcoal burner. It's heaven when I embrace my Nancy with a laughing face.
The music of Jimmy Van Heusen. Been dipping in and out of that one. We might be doing another week or two of that yet. I think before I tire of that one or I finish the CD or whatever comes first. Never quite too sure which, to be honest with you. We'll have another one from Skyrockets to celebrate Bonfire Night before we're finished. But before that, this one it almost literally jumped off the shelf when I was looking for some music for this evening earlier on. Bearing in mind some of the piles are a little bit wobbly here and there. The legendary big band's Bunny Berrigan. You can't get started.
I've settled revolutions in Spain, and the North Pole I have charted. Still I can't get started with you. On the golf course I'm under par. Metro Goldwyn have asked me to star. I've got a house, a show place. Still I can't get no place with you. 'Cause you're so supreme. Lyrics I write sight of you. I dream day and night of you. And I scheme just for the sight of you. Baby, what good does it do? I've been consulted by Franklin D. Greta Garbo has had me to tea. Still I'm broken hearted, 'cause I can't get started with you.
Bunny Berrigan and his orchestra. Haven't played any Bunny for quite some time, have we? And great player. Fought various problems, I think, with alcoholism, amongst other things. Vocal, trumpets, band leader, born in Wisconsin in 1908, and didn't live that long because he died in 1942. Came from a musical family, started out in violin, then took up trumpet and doubled on both instruments until 1927. Played with lots of local bands, moved to New York in the late 1920s, and then returned home for a short period as well to join the Nat Kemp Orchestra. The Kemp Orchestra, they toured Europe, including a residency in London from May to September of 1930. And then when the band returned to the States, Berrigan left Kemp and divided his time between studio work and working with big bands such as Fred Rich or Ben Selvin, and also worked with the Dorsey Brothers. Paul Whiteman, another big, well, the big names were there from late 1932 to 1933. Bunny Berrigan was with him and then did some radio work, toured with Benny Goodman in the mid-1930s, then back to New York and worked with Tommy Dorsey in 1936 to the spring of 37, and featured on lots of Dorsey's big-selling records. Began his own band in the spring of 1937, and in the August of that year they recorded I Can't Get Started. They toured and made records, but by the 1940s they had to disband due to bankruptcy. Yeah, it's an old problem as well as a new one. Berrigan being more interested in the band's musical achievements than the business side, unfortunately. Yeah, they won't be the first to have suffered from that. Tommy Dorsey helped to ease the trumpeter's problems, offering Berrigan employment again from March to August of 1940. He tried the big band again in 1941, Bunny Berrigan, but it just didn't really work, and by this time his health was going. He suffered from pneumonia in 1942. He left hospital against the doctor's orders and carried on touring, but then had a hemorrhage and was forced to return to hospital and never recovered from that and died, I think, relatively broke. And who, of course, paid for the funeral expenses? Tommy Dorsey. They might have fought, the two brothers, but at least he knew how to support his friends. Okay, I promised you a bit more Skyrockets, didn't I? What shall we have? Something nicey. What about this one? I think sounds like a goodie. The Hungry Heart.
blossom called the hungry heart. As in the story, our love had hardly started before we parted and cried goodbye, goodbye. So just to let you know that I still care, I will wear a blossom called the hungry heart. As in the story, our love had hardly started before we parted and cried goodbye, goodbye. So just to let you know that I still care, I will wear a blossom called the hungry heart.
The Hungry Heart, the Skyrockets, of course, with Alan Dean taking the vocals. They went on for quite some time. Lots of well-known musicians, Pat Dodd, Les Lambert, Chick Smith, Don McCaffrey and such like. They eventually disbanded in the 40s, I think. That's it. Same time next week. Cheerio.